Okay. Well, maybe I'll give a little bit of intro first of all. I'm Hetain Patel. I'm an artist. I'm calling in from Southeast London in my studio, and I'm doing a project at the minute with the wonderful organisation called Art Angel. It's called the Hobby Cave, and you can check out more information about it at thehobbycave.org.uk. We're mapping the nation's hobbies. We're doing a huge nationwide project on it. If you want a chance to be part of it, you can check out that link, thehobbycave.org.uk, and submit your favourite hobby. You know, it only takes a couple of minutes, a bit of info, a few pictures off your phone. And while we've been researching this, me and the Art Angel team, we've been scouring the country this past year, meeting hundreds of hobbyists from all kinds of creative fields and directions, and doing all kinds of amazing things just off their own back, you know. And it's kind of astonishing when you start speaking to people and seeing what they're doing just for the love of it, for the joy of it. And you know, and also such a big range from people who do it as a pure hobby in their spare time, to people, especially over lockdown, some people have started making a business out of what they do. But often, but sometimes, even when they do, they're still in the world of hobbyists, kind of interacting with them, or the businesses with other hobbyists. So still get to be in that sort of field. And as part of that research and looking around is when we came across Gary, aka the Knitting Man, and you can see on his very popular Insta page and YouTube just all your amazing creations. And so we're gonna have a little chat. I'm gonna pelt a few questions at Gary and pick his brain a bit about how he got started in things, and then we'll have a little chat about hobbies and the project. So thanks so much for joining us, Gary.
Oh, it's great to be here. Really pleased.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's really appreciated to carve out a bit of time. I mean, like I say, looking at all of your stuff on your Insta, it looks like you've made a lot. Like, well, when did you get started? How long have you been knitting?
Yeah, a lot. Most of that's recently. So I started knitting when I was a kid. So my grandmother, my nan, taught me to knit. So I would have been about 5 or 6, something like that. And then so I knew the basics, but I couldn't knit a jumper or something. And then I was at uni, and I was at back in those days, so we're talking about 83. There was the art student halls for the whole of London, and lots of first year art students went there. And I got friendly with some people from Central St Martin's that were doing fashion. I wasn't doing fashion, but I got friendly with people there that were, and they knitted. And I've got a book here. This is my first big influence. It was a guy called Martin Kidman, and so these are a little bit later.
Okay.
So these are about 87 or something, by the time I'd left art school.
Okay.
So he was doing that. Did people get to see that? So he was doing stuff for Joseph in Sloane Street, and I was in Chelsea, and I was just sort of down the road from there. And I saw them in the window, and so when I should have been doing my work, I was learning to knit. So that's really when I taught myself to knit. Right. But I jumped in at the deep end. So I was trying to do quite technical knits. And in those days, you didn't have like YouTube. You couldn't learn from YouTube. So you had to kind of work it out for yourself. So
what do you mean work it out by yourself though? But like someone teaching you, or you just having to go and figuring it out?
My mum could knit. My mum was a good knitter, but obviously she was at home in Essex, and I was, in London. So I literally, I mean, there were a few people that I could ask.
Yeah.
But, I just got some squared paper, and the difficult. I didn't go for the easy stuff. I didn't start at the beginning. I tried to knit straight away. So it was really rubbish, because I was trying to knit really difficult things. So, you know, I was a bit frustrated.
You went straight in
Uh,
for a jumper, did you?
well, it wasn't that. I mean, it's just that stuff like this, that
Ah, right.
is really quite difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I probably couldn't knit like that. I wasn't capable of knitting like that until um, after art school. I met my wife, and almost straight away we had a family,
Right.
and I started knitting for the kids around about that time. So um, that's really when I started getting into, you know, doing enough, doing the 10,000 hours or whatever they call it. You know,
And what sort of frequency were you doing? I guess if you had a young family, were you just doing it when you could, or were you finding yourself doing it all the time, or?
well, to begin with, I was working. I was, I was working trying to uh, get a career to earn enough money to pay for the family. So to begin with, I didn't have a lot of spare time, and so I wasn't really putting in that many hours. But you know, so it wasn't really. I mean, for me, from then on,
Yeah.
it was a hobby. You know, it was a hobby from then till lockdown. Really, it was
Wow.
lockdown for me that it all kicked off.
And so, in that entire time that you're kind of there as a hobbyist knitter,
Yeah.
what's the thing that is driving you all that time? Is it like is it the creation that you want to get to, or is it the process? Is it obsession?
Um, it, it's it's obviously I wanted to be creative,
Mm,
and I remember that there was a time when we had Sophia, our first daughter, where we were living in a one-bedroom flat, and I had my paints out because my degree's in painting. So I had my paints out, and my daughter had oil paints, squeezing oil paints into her mouth, and my wife was like, "You can't do that. We're in a one-bedroom flat." So, so that was the catalyst, really, for me to have another creative outlet. So, and I was really frustrated. So I went into industry, or if you can call it that. So I worked. I was working in a non-creative field,
right.
and so I needed to do something that was creative. And the great thing about knitting is that it's portable, and you can you can knit in your lunch break, you can put it in your pocket, you can knit on the train, you can
Yeah.
knit anywhere. So it I don't I don't know why, I don't know why it kept with me, apart from the fact that I was able to do something creative that, and I suppose as well as that, at the time, because I'm not necessarily interested in knitting garments.
Right.
I know I'm wearing a garment, but this was actually knitted in the late 80s.
Wow.
So it's getting up. It's an old boy
A
now.
good knit.
But all of these dots here that you can see, these are all repairs. So
Ah,
these are armed repairs where it's had moth holes over the years.
right.
Oh,
Wow.
so yeah, I'm really more interested in surface pattern design, I suppose, than I am in actual garment design. But that's
But
it's
you're still choosing to knit it, and were you saying, but your nan and your mom, and as opposed to, say, for example, just doing it as drawings, you could still do a drawing in a little book or something, but
yeah,
for you, it felt like
yeah.
knitting was the thing.
I was drawing and painting all that time as well, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah.
But yeah, so it was an add-on. It was an extra sort of creative thing that I did.
And then how do you like, all again, because you've been doing it so many years, how do you get your ideas or your inspiration? Do you have constant patterns in your head, or color schemes, or what's the driver?
And obviously, you get bombarded, don't you? I get bombarded with ideas, so I'm doing stuff. I'm, I mean, I draw these. I'll show you some of my drawings. So I get these I print these off, and these are my Angel Boy, which is my like logo,
Right.
and this is and these are designs, and I probably design something every day, but I can't knit. I can't keep a pace with that knitting those designs.
Yeah, right, right.
So, you know, I could probably knit one of these. It would take a few weeks,
Right.
but I could come up with a design every day, you know.
Wow.
And I've got loads of them. I've got stacks of them. So, but a lot of what a lot of the ideas come. I look at painters that I'm interested in, or I look at Instagram. So the last Joe, can you find me? Oh, you can't. It's in the car. I was just going to get to. So, for instance, I'm just about to show you something that I knitted, and do you know the illustrator and artist Kit Williams?
Yeah.
Who, yeah, he wrote what was that book called, Joe? Where he buried the hare. Masquerade. He wrote the book Masquerade, and I was, you know, I love Kit Williams, and so these are. I knitted a lot of baby blankets. So this is the baby blanket that I knitted for my grandson, and his name's Atlas. I don't know if you can see his name there, Atlas Kiss.
Yeah.
This is quite a huge, well, quite a large baby blanket. So all of my 7 grandchildren have got baby blankets. So wow. I knitted that for Atlas, and I was thinking very much about Kit Williams at the time. So I quite often will look at paintings,
right.
Or this is a bluebird blanket that I knitted for, who's I knitted this one for? Doris, our granddaughter Doris. So
Beautiful.
this is the one that kicked it off for me. So this is the one that I started. Well, I knitted this jumper during lockdown.
Right.
And then Pansy, who's our daughter, I said, what would you like me to do for Doris's baby blanket? Because I knit one for them all.
Yeah.
And she said, could you use something like that jumper? So I knitted that. And then when I knitted this, people started asking me for the pattern. And that was the first time. So Doris is 3 now, Joe? Nearly 3.
Yeah,
so
there was the question actually from someone watching, just asking how you turn these designs into patterns, because like presumably that was the next thing, was it?
Yeah, I didn't really want to. So my patterns, I'm not conventional really, because being an artist myself, I was like, well, what would I like? And I'd like something I could put on the wall. So that blanket that I did for Atlas with the hair on, people were asking for that as a pattern. And obviously they don't want Atlas on it, and it's quite big. So what I did was I converted it to a manageable size. And then I sell posters like that for people, and they've got the squares on. So each is a square. So, but I hand paint, not each individual poster. This is a print of a hand painted. So I hand paint, fill in every single square, and then I get those as prints, and then people buy a print of that or that.
And you use that as pattern.
And you use that as the pattern, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I give them the chart.
Yeah.
Plus, I give them additional information, and so written information about how to make it. So there's a Word document that goes with it, and I give them a crib sheet as well. But more than anything nowadays, I'm doing YouTube videos or Patreon videos. So I do videos so that people can follow me as I knit it. So they knit along with me.
Yeah.
Because for me, the days of the old handwritten paper pattern
Yeah.
are gone, because you can just watch me do it.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
You can
It's
nibble on with them. So you can stop and start the video
yeah.
as you go along with it yourself. And
It's
so that's a much better process.
I love the way that through YouTube and video tutorials that kind of knitting and all kinds of hobbies have become so much more accessible.
Oh,
You know,
I so wish that I'd have been around to teach myself when I
yeah.
was sort of 18.
I mean, what you with all the people that tune into your videos and ask you questions and follow along with what you do, what do you find about what is it that brings people to hobbies? Is it same as what you were saying, that this need to be creative, or what do
Yeah, there's that.
you? Yeah,
Yeah, there is that. And then there's a lot of people that like the community aspect.
yeah,
We've got quite a big community. We have people that uh, they comment on every video that we put out, and everyone supports each other, because
yeah,
I'm struggling at the moment, because the trajectory
yeah.
has been quite steep for us,
Right.
because that's only it's only since that's my first pattern, and Doris isn't even 3. So we've moved very fast, and people like that. They help each other. So I
Yeah,
can't go around to. I get asked a lot of
yeah,
questions, and there was a point, and it wasn't long ago. I would say it was October of last year, when I was answering every single question, and but in the end, I think it's just stressed me out. I think I just took a month off, I think, in November, because it was just overwhelming for me.
wow,
So Jo tries to, my wife Jo,
yeah.
Mrs. Smith, she sits behind the camera and G's me along,
Wow.
and
You must have met a lot of people through knitting through this way.
yeah, and wherever I go, because I'm knitting it. Wherever I was knitting in the park last week.
You're right.
Um, I, the car went in for an MOT, and so I wasn't near home,
Yeah,
because we live in Cornwall, we live in the middle of nowhere.
yeah,
So I took the car for an MOT, went knitting in the park, and it's a great thing. I've never, because people say to me, "Oh, do you get a lot of abuse?" From like, do people come along and because you're knitting, and it's totally the opposite. I get young boys. I get uh, well, I get I had a I was speaking to a lovely lady last week for about half an hour about knitting. So
mm.
I get people from all walks of life,
Do,
and
do, do, do you have a favorite thing that you've knitted, or I know you've got lots of pattern ideas constantly, or is there a kind of a project out there that you've not been able to do yet, that you've been dying to do,
well, I've got
or is it endless?
I'm stacked. It's just pick the next one, really.
Right, right.
So at the moment, the hair pattern that I showed you earlier, that
Yeah,
I knitted from backwards.
yeah,
So I then converted that, I converted it because people were asking for the pattern. So I converted it to this. So this has been out now for a year or so.
yeah.
And then people have said, "Oh, can we have that as a jumper pattern?"
Mm.
So at the moment, I'm planning. I got a lovely on my birthday. I got a lovely box of yarn. So I've got this gorgeous
Oh,
box of yarn.
nice.
Yeah, beautiful, just absolutely stunning colours. I think there's
Yeah,
80 odd colours in there, um, from We County Yarns, and I want to do something with that. So, all the time I'm trying to stretch what I do, to push the envelope, to make life difficult for myself.
to make sure you're always kind of challenged, right? I mean, do you think the challenge is another one of the things that bring people to hobbies? Like it gives them a challenge that isn't like, you know, life and death, or that's related to a stressful part of life. It's like the part of the creative challenge, or
Well, yeah, I think so, and I think with knitting, because I've gone down a cul-de-sac. You know, I I I I I'm doing colour work.
yeah,
You know, that's how you
yeah,
define it. You don't do. There's lots of, you know, there's lots of different things that you can do in knitting.
yeah,
You know, so I only use one
right,
stitch, but I'm, well, there's two, it's plain and pearl, but I just use the basic stitches, and all I care about really, because I'm really interested in colour and shape and surface pattern design.
yeah.
So sorry, I forgot the
No,
question,
no,
Hetain.
I was just kind of thinking about what brings, you know, what the exact different things that bring people to hobbies, and
Yeah,
just
you never stop learning. You never stop
yeah,
learning, and I, you know, I'm trying to do things that push the envelope, and then
yeah,
of course these days there's lots of young people coming on
yeah,
board,
yeah,
which, you know, that when I was young, people used to knit out of necessity because it was cheaper
yeah,
to knit a jumper for your kids than it was to go to the shop and buy a jumper. So you could buy
yeah,
the wool, and it was cheaper to hand knit it. But nowadays, the young people, that they it's they want to do it because they don't want to be part of fast fashion.
right,
So
yeah,
they're learning to do, you know, because they're all learning crochet, they're all learning knitting, and I would say that that is relatively recent. I would say, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, since,
it's interesting. It chimes a lot with what you're saying. Chimes a lot with all the hobbyists from all different fields that they kind of talk about this bit of slowing down of time,
yeah,
and you know, kind of with the fast pace of everything, social media and life, and you can do everything this and that. That focusing on something, some a creative act, kind of feels like, you know, you sort of slow down and focus on something, and where you can be in control of something,
yeah,
and to express yourself. And I think, like, you know, it's easy, isn't it, to sort of get into a sense that creativity is just for artists or designers or that sort of thing. But actually, we sort of think it should be a right, and that, you know, that everyone should have be able
yeah.
to do something.
And there are, and I know, because since I've started putting out patterns, there are this range of people, and so there are people that need a pattern and they need to follow it
Yeah,
strictly,
yeah,
and they need to know that color on that row and that color on that row, and
yeah,
that's it. They follow it
yeah,
precisely, and then you've got people that pull your design apart and create it the way they want it. So
yeah,
there's this range of people. So even people that buy a pattern still use their creativity. They might do it in a different color. They might, you know,
yeah,
move
yeah.
the flower around or whatever. So yeah, you know, it's knitting is a really creative thing, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that in other knitters that I've spoken to, and all the kind of ways that you're creating on your site, and it's also kind of why we want to celebrate knitting amongst all of the other hobbies as part of the hobby cave. You know, we're sort of aware that people might do it at home in front of the telly or in the spare time, or like yourself on a park bench. And one of the things that we're excited about at the hobby cave is like to gather loads of people's work, and you know, creative outputs, and all the different ways that people go at it, the different, you know, different preferences to different kinds of pattern and color, and you know, whether it's knitting and all kinds of things, and just kind of bring everyone together in a way. I feel like there's a common thread somehow between all of these different hobbies of, you know what, this driver that people have towards sort of creating a bit of time and doing something. I mean, it's obviously something that you were drawn to for many years before you started moving it into a business, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I tried for a long time. I did try, you know, during that period, I did try. I mean, it's very difficult to. So I think about '98, I did try to set up something, but that was what I was trying to do was hand knit for money, and that is pretty difficult. That you can't knit, you know, something like
Yeah.
that. There might be 100 hours in that,
Yeah.
and if I wanted to pay myself minimum wage, it's so you've got to do it for the love of it. You
Yeah.
can't try and find it for money.
Yeah.
So well, it is a hobby. It's got to be a hobby.
I mean,
And
yeah. There's something about the freedom in that for me of you know, obviously, you know, you've got to pay your bills and you've got to earn, and if it turns into your work and that works for you, then great. But there's something about the hobbyists in all fields that I really admire. That it's sort of doing something that, as you say, for the love of it, without any gatekeepers or, you know, someone telling them they must do it this way or that way. And the kind of how empowering that is to kind of choose something and just be able to do it because you decide, you know.
and try to get as proficient as you can at something as well, even though you know you're only doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
And I call these, I mean, I call these baby blankets labors of love. Or I did. That was my first baby blanket. Was this one that I did for my grandson? He's 9. So this was my first ever little baby blanket that I did for Arthur, and his name's written through it. I don't know if you can see
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, you can.
So yeah, so he's 9 now. So that was my first, and that was, I think it was in my spare time. I was working full time, 6 weeks, something like that, for me to knit that. So,
Wow.
but they've, you know, now the latest one that I'm working on, which I showed you the other day, but I've left it in the car today.
Yeah.
I've been on for 9 months.
Wow.
I've
That
been on,
that
but yeah, 9 months.
that's a labour of love. We've got a couple of comments that have come in and say your grandchildren are very lucky. You know, it must be quite. It's a great old.
They generally don't appreciate it. No.
They're used to granddad making creations. That's the thing. They've been spoiled.
Yeah, they might do when they're a bit older.
Oh, brilliant. Well, listen, thank you. Thanks so much for sharing your story and your background and about your works. It's so interesting to kind of hear how you think and kind of the approach you've taken all these years. I would just encourage anyone who's a knitter and or who's any hobbyist actually, if you'd like to have a chance at showing your work as part of an exhibition, the Hobby Cave, which I'm working on with Art Angel, where it's going to be the biggest UK celebration of hobbyists that's ever been, and our premise really is to show off people's hobbies and just the importance of them really, and we want to kind of exhibit them and show them in the most beautiful way we can, and bring all different hobbies together in unexpected ways, and just kind of promote this freedom of kind of doing something your own labor of love. So if you're interested to, you know, we'd love to hear from you. It's thehobbycave.org.uk. Have a little look, submit your favorite hobby, and we'd love to read your submission. But meanwhile, sorry, go on, Gary.
It looks great. It looks great to me because there's some great galleries. Did I see that the Tate St Ives is one of your galleries that you're.
That's right. That's right. This is one of the.
Because I live, you know,
Excellent.
12 miles away from the St Ives Tate. So.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well,
Some quite impressive exhibition spaces. So, you know, I would encourage people to get involved.
They'll be all over the country, across the UK. Actually, different places that will be exhibiting. There'll be a London show that everyone can apply to that too. And so yeah. Well, for everyone that's joined us, thanks so much for being with us to hear us have a little chat. Thanks so much to you, Gary, for making a bit of time and having a chat. And I'll keep following your work as ever, and hopefully talk to you again.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Hetain.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
So I'll see if I can work out how to save this now. Yeah.
I should be able to save it, and I'll try and send it to you. I think you might have to start it to the saving.
I think if I save it, I won't have you anyway. So.
Oh, right. Hopefully, if I save it, I'll be able to save with both of us on it. because
Okay,
that's what
great.
I can see. Oh, I just need to remember to say that the deadline for the hobby cave is the 12th of March. So don't hold back, get them in. You know,
I need to get
yeah,
mine in.
yeah, that's it exactly. We need yours in there for sure. I'm going to put mine in as well.
Okay.
So join us, join us. All right, thanks a lot, Gary.
Bye.
Uh,